Um, excuse me? Could you take a video of me in front of the statue over there?
Yeah, sure. Are you ready?
Yeah, don't worry about me.
Hi! So, if you're wondering what this guy is standing in front of, and what's about to happen, let me tell you something about our project, Vivid Rain. But, before we start, I'd like to tell you more about rain itself. You know, the water dropping out of the sky? If it would suddenly stop raining, shortage, heat, greenery, costs! The natural groundwater recharge would drop, and cities could have a shortage problem, especially if the population keeps growing. Without evaporation of rain and wet grounds, cities will heat up more, which could lead to heat waves and health threats. The greenery in cities would need more water, which, if the demands would not be met, would lead to dry grounds and biodiversity loss. And higher costs, as the drinking water would need to be created or delivered, as well as the maintenance of the canalization. That's why we, at Vivid Rain, want to showcase the usage of rain and its importance in our world. We want to visualize collected rainwater and make it experienceable, so we can raise awareness of its value and the impending shortage. We started by creating our mood board of natural structures like mushrooms, trees, and plants. We also asked ourselves, how does water act in nature? Define structures like rivers, lakes, and oceans, and its actions like flowing, splitting, moving, and falling. With this mood board as an inspiration for our installations, we started to roughly sketch some drawings. The installations should be organic and dynamic. We agreed on this point as rainwater has a natural origin and is characteristically organic, but we also thought that experiences should not be static, which is why we decided to make these installations interactive. We used Stuttgart in Germany as our city of reference. In 2024, there was an average of roughly 80 liters of rain per square meter each month. We started by creating the see-through water tank that should collect the rainwater, and based on the average rainfall, these tanks can hold in between 600 to 1,100 liters. It was important to us that the interactive part can fully work without using any kind of electricity, solely human-generated power. Which is why we thought of 3 mechanics that are realistic to implement and are functionally strong. A classic pump, of which the mechanism could also be activated by a pressure plate, an Archimedes screw, or something we called a drop-down splash method, where you lift an object up and let it drop back down. How these mechanics are implemented will be explained by each structure. Okay, now let's go back to this guy. Let's see what happens to him. This guy was standing on our first structure, the willow. The collected rainwater is running over the edges of the tank and dropping from the top onto these arms. It flows down and runs through a type of sieve that makes the water beams thinner so it resembles the leaves of a willow. The water tank of this structure, and the others, in general will be made out of polycarbonate, while the branches up top are made out of bronze. Our next structure is named the coral. The water is also flowing down this object, controlled by beveled edges to the bottom. We named it the coral as we imagine it gray in its dry state, and whenever it is touched by water, the color changes. This is possible due to an hydrochromatic coating. The tank will be made out of polycarbonate, while the rest of the surrounding material will be made out of recycled concrete. The next structure is named the tornado. With the tornado, we wanted the users to be able to create a swirl that, when the tank overflows, splashes around the structure, creating an umbrella out of water. The tank will, again, be made out of polycarbonate. When we created these first structures, a problem appeared. How do we get the water to the top if the tank is not completely filled? Do you remember? Average rain, tank sizes, yada yada yada, 3 mechanics, no electricity. You remember, don't you? These mechanics will each be implemented in the structures to make them more enjoyable and interactive for everyone using or watching them. Okay, enough. Let's move on to some fun. Here comes structure 4, the gazier, or as we nicknamed it, the plazier. Users are able to produce air bubbles by, for example, jumping up and down on pressure plates, like an air pump. These air bubbles can lift or carry objects through the tank. We were inspired by this childhood game, which I'm sure many of you know, where you try to make the rings flow on top of the pillars. But you could also just fill the tank with objects like artificial fish and just let them swim around. The tank is made out of polycarbonate and the pillars out of colored recycled concrete to create more appeal towards children, although adults are also invited to use it. The material that the rings or the other objects are made of should be a light material so it is able to float. The reason that we like this installation so much is that it can be used alone, but also has the potential to be a fun multiplayer game that connects people. Now let's get to our last structure, the lily pad. With a lily pad, water drops from pool to pool, and it could be controlled by some objects like an upside-down Archimedes screw or something else, creating a beautiful display of collected rainwater. This structure could also be used functionally, like for washing your hands or a drinking point for dogs, birds, etc. The tank uses polycarbonate, as do the branches that hold the bowls, which are made out of bronze. These bowls should be organically formed, and the branches holding them should give the illusion that the pools are floating. It was important to us that the materials used are not mixed, so they can be recycled or disposed of with minimal waste and sourced in an environment-friendly way. Furthermore, the materials needed to withstand damage by water or sun so that the longevity remains. We have not yet decided if these functional uses should be limited to the last structure or if we can implement them on the other structures. We wanted to show a small variety of structures, and it's our goal to build one of them, if not many, into an inner city. We prioritized collecting a few ideas and concepts to maybe morph or throw away some of these aspects, to see what works and what does not. You might be asking yourself, but what does happen to the water when it reaches the ground? Well, we ask you to think of what happens to rain when it reaches the ground. The team behind Vivid Rain wants to showcase the beauty behind rainwater and how it could make your day even a little bit better. If we sparked an interest in you, our job here is not done, but we move on one step forward. This is Vivid Rain.